What is a communication model? Hey everyone, today we're going to tumble down the rabbit hole that is media literacy, and we're going to do so by examining the components of a basic communication model. This is part 1 of 2. Throughout the entire Vagary Media Literacy series, I'm going to use this basic communication model to examine all media literacy topics that we explore. Yes, I could throw together videos on cognitive biases, Section 230, defamation, media ownership, and related topics, but without a framework, these topics just hang out there on their own without context for a deeper understanding. To kick us off, I want to acknowledge that thinking critically is adjacent to overthinking. Do we need to scrutinize every piece of content that we encounter? No. That would be overwhelming, analysis paralysis. We would never leave the house. Media literacy isn't just about developing our critical thinking skills, it's also about knowing when to use them, especially in a democratic society, because the content we encounter can range from entertainment to misinformation to journalism to political manipulation. As a citizen, media literacy is our self-defense wheelhouse. So what's a communication model? Simply put, a communication model is a visual representation of how information is transmitted from a sender to a receiver. Yes, there are other models: the Shannon-Weaver model, Aristotle's model, Laswell's model, the Osgood-Schramm model, and others, but in the abstract, they all represent the same thing: how information is sent from a sender to a receiver. Some models go into more detail because they represent more sophisticated processes. Throughout the rest of this 2-part series, we will use the basic model to examine how the influence paradigm or power dynamic changes across different types of media technology. So for most of us, communication is as fundamental as breathing. For routine interactions, we don't consciously think about the target audience or wrestle with the type of message to send, or whether it should be an email, a text, a meme, or a video. Like breathing, we just do it. That's not so for communication professionals. Like many commercial domains, communication spans many industries: recording, publishing, film, advertising, journalism, broadcasting, entertainment, public relations, influencers, political propaganda, gaming, social media, and others. Collectively, these industries of influence shape our ideas and how we discuss complex issues like our shared values, culture, spirituality, and government. They impact how we decide to coexist or not. So I'll note here that there's no industry for helping you become media literate. As in other industries, visual models help break complex or vague processes into specific components to better understand them or assign accountability. Who owns the keyword research? Who owns the target audience? Who owns the media plan? Who owns the graphic art? In professional communication, these details and many others are deliberate decisions. And the most important calculated decision is you, the target recipient of their content. What are your psychographics, demographics, biases, or otherwise? When we begin our media literacy journey, we assume the role of content consumers because that's the role we take on as children. So when critiquing influences, we work backwards in our model. Here's our basic communication model. In it, we have the 4 basic components: the message sender or content creator, the message, the medium, and the message receiver. The message or content flows in one direction only. What's the last component that influences the content consumer? That's the medium. We'll start with an easy one. This is a storyteller influence paradigm. The medium is just the voice. Here we have parents communicating with their newborn as toddlers. We don't have a choice but to consume the messages sent to us. If we have ideas of our own, we can't communicate them. So working backward, let's think critically. Who controls the medium? In this case, the medium is the voice. So that's just the parents. Who controls the message? Again, that's the parents. In this situation, they have narrative control. Who's the message sender? Again, that's the parents. What's the direction of influence? Well, it's one way only. From the message sender to the recipient, it's a one-to-one type of communication. What's the communication goal? Well, that depends. Sometimes it's to educate, sometimes to inform, entertain, could be self-expression. It really depends. So that's an easy one, but let's look at something a little more complex. Here we have the conversation influence paradigm. Like our previous example, the medium is the voice. So eventually we learn to speak and communicate with our peers. In this example, the entire communication process occurs via voice, but everyone in the vicinity can participate. So to think critically, we work backwards in our model. Who controls the medium or the voice? This is a conversation, so no one controls the medium. You could argue that a conversation is just a bunch of micro messages. Who controls the message? Well, that would be everyone who participates. Theoretically, no one has narrative control in this situation. Who's the message sender? Well, that would be everyone who contributes. What's the direction of influence? Each micro message is sent from the sender to all the recipients. What's the communication goal? Well, that depends on the individual. Sometimes it's to educate, to entertain, to misinform. They don't always have the same goal. So for most of human history, in open societies, in-person conversations were how we communicated with each other and decided how to coexist as communities, whether about values, social norms, culture, politics, religion, traditions, resource ownership, or otherwise. In those days, our conversations couldn't reach beyond our tribes, villages, and local communities. In truly open societies, everyone contributed to the conversation, but again, not everyone had the same communication goal. So note that some societies prefer a top-down, more authoritative form of governments that doesn't embrace open conversations. Our next example is the hieroglyph influence paradigm. In this case, the medium is a fixed surface. Several thousand years ago, we began painting, writing, and carving our ideas onto fixed surfaces. This relief of Pharaoh Ramses II is an example of a fixed medium that depicts the Battle of Kadesh, which took place in 1274 BC between the Egyptian and Hittite empires. It's the earliest pitched battle in recorded history. We know the details of this battle because of this relief. Here we have something similar to the storyteller influence paradigm, but there's a shift in the dynamic of influence. Let's work backward. So, who controls the medium? Well, I'm assuming at the time that would have been Ramses II. Who controls the message? Again, if Ramses II owned the medium, he had narrative control. He had the ability to perpetuate ideas. Who's the message sender? Again, that would be Ramses II. However, he probably didn't actually create the content or the message. His approved artisans would have created the content. What's the direction of influence? This is a one-way signal from the content creators to many recipients. What's the communication goal? Well, was it to educate, to entertain? Was it propaganda? I guess we don't know for sure. So here's a fun fact. With this medium and content example, the message recipient can be in a different place than the content creation group and even live in a different era. If you're interested, you can visit the Abu Simbel temple today and read about the Battle of Kadesh 3,000 years after it was carved. So let's build on our hieroglyph example and move right into our billboard influence paradigm. In this example, the medium is a fixed surface, but it schedules a variety of content. Here we have two modern examples of a fixed medium with scheduled content. On the left, we have a static billboard. On the right, we have a digital billboard. Again, let's think critically and work backward. Who controls the medium? Well, that would be the billboard owner. Could be a group, could be a company, maybe a person. Who controls the message? Well, again, the billboard owner is the content gatekeeper. They have narrative control. Who's the message sender? Could be an advertiser, could be a publicist, but all of them must be approved by the billboard owner. What's the direction of influence? This is a one-way signal to many recipients from the creative group. What's the communication goal? Well, that depends. Could be to inform, persuade, sell, or otherwise. So with billboards, we've entered into commercial media. So we're going to add two more questions to consider. Number one, what's the business goal of the billboard? Is it the same as the communication goal, or is it to generate revenue? Number two, what's the audience reach? This depends on the fixed location. There's a huge difference between a billboard in Times Square and one next to a rural highway. So now that we've explored some of the rudimentary types of media technology and how the influence paradigm changes with each, I'm going to bring part one of communication model to a close. In part two, we'll look at a few more traditional media examples, then work our way up to modern media. where I'll introduce and walk through this updated communication or influence model. So again, whether you're already on your media literacy journey, know someone just starting out, or want to connect and collaborate, hit those links so we can explore together. This has been the Vagary Perspective. Till next time, Diabos.